Welcome to another episode of The Marketer's Edge, a series designed to share senior level marketing perspective about marketer challenges, opportunities, and agency relationships. Our goal is to help marketers and agencies learn from other marketers across different industries. Today, we're talking with Liz Mumford, the Vice President of Marketing and PR for Dutch Point Credit Union, based in Wethersfield, Connecticut. Hopefully, I pronounced that correctly. Liz, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Very well.
Excellent, excellent. So I've got a small handful of questions for you, but before I do that, can you tell me a little bit about Dutch Point Credit Union and what you do for the organization? I'd like our listeners to know what kind of credit union Dutch Point is and what you do for them.
Okay. Dutch Point is we were started in 1960.
Okay,
We started out as a one-person shop, and we were the credit union pretty much for Northeast Utilities.
okay,
So over the years, we were pretty much a one-company credit union. Then, as competition started getting tougher, and as legislation allowed us to change our charters, we then became a seg-based credit union. So now we're able to pick up some seg. So we did that. And of course, that worked for a while. But again, as times change and people's banking habits changed, we realized the competition's too much. We need more. We need to be out there on the streets. So we applied for a community charter, and it was granted in 2004. So we've been a community credit union ever since. We've also taken on several very small mergers, but we've had two big mergers. One was in 2013 with Capital Region Federal Credit Union, and then another one a bit smaller was with Midcon. And we were able to acquire, I believe, two additional branches to add to our branch infrastructure. So
okay.
while we really don't want to grow through mergers and stuff like that, we prefer organic growth, but it has been to our advantage. So that's one of the things the credit union did to grow, aside from going community, was to look for some merger opportunities.
Got it. Got it. Somebody looking to sell to Dutch Point, which is just are they tend to be smaller, just don't have the sort of the scale to be able to grow as nicely as a firm like yours.
Well, I believe compliance, with
Okay.
all the new compliance regulations, with the enhanced technology that an organization needs to compete with the big banks and all that. The little
Right.
guys, they didn't have the money. They
Got it.
couldn't do it, and they then became, less relevant to the community they served, less relevant to their members.
Got it. Makes sense. Yep. So you've been with Dutch Point for 31 years, which is fantastic. I love seeing,
Yeah.
when employees are loyal and supportive of the organizations they work for. I'm just curious, what's kept you at Dutch Point as long as you've been there?
Oh, I only have a 10-minute ride to work.
That sounds pretty good to me.
No, actually, I've been with the credit union 35 years.
35.
Yeah,
Okay.
I started in 1987, and I was hired as the executive assistant to the CEO.
Okay.
And she, at the time, she was originally the credit union's first employee. So
Hmm.
she evolved through the thing, through the years, whatever. So I worked for her. Needless to say, she ran through administrative assistants like babies run through diapers.
I
So,
love it.
anyways, I came on board. It was a struggle, and after I got through the first 6 months with her, everything was perfect and great, and I loved what I did. Then I believe it was about, I want to say, 1992. I think that was a time of economic downturn.
Sure.
And when our marketing person left, we were not in a position to replace that individual because we were operating under a LOA, or one of those letters where we weren't well capitalized.
Okay.
So they asked me, would I continue with my job for her, and would I also take on the marketing duties? And of course I said yes.
Yeah.
And so from there, it's evolved into, I was just a marketing something to marketing director. I still carried all of my administrative stuff, but eventually that went bye-bye, and I'm a big girl now.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard of that title, marketing something. So I'm curious, what would you say some of the biggest challenges Dutch Point has faced, other than obviously the pandemic of the last 5, 10 years?
Really for us, there's been several challenges, but the biggest challenge is member growth.
Okay.
And for many years it was loan growth and member growth. But then the past 2 years, I believe, loans just walked in the door without much effort.
Okay.
We're not the only ones that benefited from the rate environment and the lending environment,
Right.
but yeah, loan growth. So member growth is an issue. At times, staff has been a challenge.
Okay.
Um, I think one of the other, and it's more today and going forward, is the challenge is just going to be keeping up with the day to day in terms of uh, thinking like the competition, kind of looking like the competition, because where we are today is going to look completely different in less than 3 years.
Right.
So the life cycle of anything we try to achieve is very short lived.
Yeah.
And it's, again, not just for us, but it's the industry, it's the digital that the consumer wants.
Right.
So it's that to me is a big challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. I was going to ask if you think that's a function of just a more dynamic competitive environment, or just a more dynamic marketing and consumer environment, but it sounds like maybe it's a little bit of both.
I think it's a little bit of both. I was reviewing the questions earlier today, and one of the things that we slice and dice the data, and I'm all about data to a certain point. You can always look at data and make it work for you if you want, or make it work against you. But it's the data, and being able to just we have to be able to compete with these other people. So when I go back to the data, before you were advertising to women or to men, to this age group. Now you've got all sorts of demographics. You've got your fee driven, your low income, your upscale. Then you have to break it down by the all of those generations: traditionalists, baby boomers, Gen Y, Gen Z, millennials. I don't even know what the latest name is for the next gen of
Right.
people, you
Neither
know.
do I.
And the
Yeah.
thing is, and I always say this to people, nothing goes away. And I kid you not. So as we're living longer, that generation is around longer and they still need to bank.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, these other levels of generations are coming on board, and they are so different and unique in their own way that my messaging to someone who's just getting out of college is far different from my messaging of someone who's going to go to a baby boomer.
Yeah.
And that's a challenge.
Yeah, that is a challenge. And there really aren't that many industries that necessarily have to deal with that kind of a challenge. So
Yes.
that I had never, really hadn't thought about it in that context, but definitely agree. You talked about organic growth, or member growth or loan growth, and I know when credit unions first started making a meaningful play in the market, their ability to differentiate themselves was relatively easy. They were all about community and members, and made people feel like they were special. I'm just curious if that changed any over the years with more credit unions entering the market, and also just thinking about the question of member growth. Is that, or do you find yourself stealing from other credit unions, or trying to still separate yourself out from the banking industry?
So, okay, excuse me, going back to that, are, we market to them. We have to be aware of the competition. So, like where you say, we're competing against more credit unions. Technically, credit unions are shrinking. The little guys are getting gobbled up. But even if the credit unions shrink, they're really not our competition. We kind of compete on the same playing field. It's your fintechs. It's your big banks.
Right.
It's everything that can be done online. It's just, I'm a consumer, and why would I drive to a bank, on a winter day in the slush when I can do everything from the comfort of my home.
Yeah.
So people were, I think, somewhat adverse in the beginning. And I'm going back 10 or 15 years. That's back when bill payers started coming on board and, don't pay for a stamp, pay your bills from your bedroom, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But things have just evolved so much that the competition, it's getting harder, stronger, and more every day.
Right.
And it has nothing really to do with the credit unions. We in Connecticut are very friendly. We don't beat up the banks. We are friendly with our credit union counterparts. But for us, Connecticut, I could go down any main street town in Connecticut, and if I polled 10 people and asked them about belonging to a credit union, 6 out of the 10 would probably say either I don't know what a credit union is, or I didn't know, I thought it was closed. We don't have a strong presence in the marketplace that a credit union is for you.
Yeah, that's interesting. So just as an industry, it still struggles to sort of help people understand that you don't have to be part of the army or whatever the organization is in order to benefit from what a credit union has to offer.
Yeah. Well, like in California, and this goes back to when I first started and I was learning about things, California is big with credit unions and they love their credit unions. I don't understand why a little state like Connecticut can't make that happen, but we're also New England. We're also not nice people, not bad people, but we're very standoffish and you know what? No, I don't need that. I'm good. So I think it's also the nature. We're not free spirited like the Californians.
That's funny.
I'm a free spirit.
So, I'm curious, with customer engagement being such an important part of the character and personality of a credit union brand, how did Dutch Point manage to keep that connection with consumers rock solid during the pandemic, where you were really limited in what you could do in that arena?
We took the approach we weren't limited. We took the approach, anything you want to be able to do with us, we can make it happen. While our lobbies were closed, our drive-throughs remained open. We also extended our hours on Saturdays and evenings for our, used to be called call center, now it's our contact center. We made it available to, if somebody called in and needed help, our staff were, hey, give them your number. If they have to call you back, work with them after hours. Do what you can to make whatever they want possible. Obviously, we had all the online solutions, but really, we just, our CEO was adamant. We're not closing our doors, but we are also going to keep everybody safe. And that was the balance that he tried to achieve, which we did succeed. So we were very pleased with how we came through the pandemic.
That's great. Did you have to sort of alter your messaging and marketing to some degree to help people understand that?
No, not really. Not really. When keep in mind, a lot of us too were working remote, this, that, and the other thing. So at the beginning stages of this, I think everybody, consumers and employees of any businesses, were just learning to get their feet wet into this new reality and how they're going to navigate through. But the fact was, you were never not able to communicate with the credit union. You were never not able to access your accounts. So basically, as long as you don't need to come in and shake hands with someone, we're here to help you.
Right. That's right. So I'm curious, how has the marketing of the credit union changed over the years? What kind of, imagine you're using more digital platforms today than you were 3 to 5 years ago, but anything else that's changed pretty significantly? You mentioned targeting and how that's changed. Anything else?
So, I did have a page here, but okay, this is something I tell everybody. Okay. Yep. I have 2 expressions. Nothing goes away. Okay. And the other one is gone is gone. When it's gone, it's gone. Can't get it. But nothing goes away. So we're adding digital, we're adding email, we're adding geo-targeting, we're adding Google ads. The website is a plethora of opportunity, but yet your standards don't fall off the planet. I still do direct mail. We still do the traditional email blast. We still do the little baby branch marketing with the flyers. And my God, my staff still love their stuffers to hand out. So nothing goes away. It's just more, more, more.
Right.
So the challenge is to come up with a cohesive message that is meaningful and impactful, and then carrying that brand look, feel throughout all channels, because nothing goes away. I sit in meetings and, we talk about maybe getting rid of the quarterly newsletter, and I'll always hear, Liz, can we get this in the quarterly newsletter? I'm like, yes, we can. So nothing goes away.
Yep.
Just gets bigger.
It does. Definitely more complex.
Yep.
So I noticed you have PR, public relations, in your title. I'm curious, how do you use PR, and what kind of things are you doing to support the credit union?
With PR, and I keep saying the previous CEO because he just retired last Friday.
Okay.
And he was very big about the people helping people philosophy. And while I'm going to sit here and say that statement has no meaning to the average consumer, and I do tell my executives, you guys, it has meaning to you. It does not have any meaning to anybody on the street. What they care about is what's in it for me. What can you do for me? I don't need help, Mm-hmm. Having said that, I have tried to steer away from using the term people helping people because I feel it is antiquated. But at the same time, we're all about people. So one of the things that we do, we go out into the community and we do a lot of community outreach, right? We're running a promotion right now for Operation Fuel, all the high energy prices going up, and electricity in Connecticut is gone up double, whatever, because of whatever. So, we're coming up with ways to help them, but we still make it about the person. So now I'm going to tell somebody, you come to Dutch Point. Sure, we have loans and we have these things, but we can customize your loan just for you. Right. So instead of saying we're about people helping people, we actually try to go in and say, hey, we can help you, and this is why we're different. We're not just going to throw you into this loan. We're going to make it fit for whatever your payment plan is and stuff like that.
Right. Okay, cool. You mentioned data and analytics earlier. Is the consumer expectation high in terms of wanting to be able to get more sophisticated in how they bank and things like that require you to be more sort of technically adept at providing different services? Or
so I have the best job in the credit union. I do want you to know that because I get all the toys. We work with Radon. I don't know if you're familiar with Radon Integrator, but it's basically a platform that everything from the core gets funneled into Radon. And in like 2 clicks of a button, I can have a mailing list at my fingertips. I can slice and dice the member data based on age, based on products you have, based on 1,000,001 things. It's phenomenal. Well, it gets even better. I now have a sub product with that, and that's for predictive analytics. Okay. I literally can go into this platform and I can tell you who is doing online gambling and with what online gambling agency. With this platform, I can tell you who's making car payments to what banks. It's drilled down that far. It's like Big Brother on speed.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal thing. And in fact, I can even go into the platform and I can plug in a date scenario and it will tell me, okay, over the past week, you've had this many new members. In a nutshell, I don't have to go to IT and ask them to do anything. I just go right into this platform, put in a few things, or if I have pre-set up the campaigns, I just hit a refresh button and I can tell midway through the month, am I going to be on track with my new member growth, or am I falling behind? And that also allows me to be a little bit more proactive with what I have to do to reach goal versus being reactive when I find out at the end of the month I didn't hit my numbers. So it's quite exciting. Yeah.
You talked about predictive analytics. So does it sort of allow you to predict outcomes based on your marketing activity?
I'll be honest with you, I have not done anything or given any thought to predicting outcomes.
Okay.
Part of me is going to say, and I know maybe I should work for that, but I am a one-person marketing department, so I kind of have to pick and choose my battles.
Yeah.
But the other thing, like for the past 2 years, and again, I haven't tracked any promotions because we were continually hitting goal. So as long as I'm hitting or exceeding goal, I don't want to add that piece of work
Yeah.
to my plate. And credit union is like, hey, as long as we're hitting the numbers, your stuff's working,
Everybody's
great.
happy.
If it starts to fall by the wayside, then we got to look at it. But as long as we're hitting it, that's fine with us.
That's great.
Which is nice.
You mentioned sort of the banking and credit union world, changing rapidly and looking different as you look out into the future. If you had to sort of predict what the world of banking and credit unions look like, a few years out, how do you think it would look different than what it looks like today?
Well, people always say brick and mortar is going to go away. Number one, brick and mortar will not go away. People still feel the safety of having that brick building. I tell anybody I know, if you have a banking account somewhere, you should always have two. I don't care if it's a credit union or a bank, always have two financial institutions. It just makes sense. But what I see is branches will become, the face of the branch will become different. They're going to become smaller. They will only be run by one or two people. You won't have super loads of staff. You'll have your ITM machines in there. So it's going to be more technology driven with people there to assist you.
Yeah.
There are one credit union went in that direction about 8 years ago. But they didn't do their research, and the person just pushed it through the board. And then they were at a Radon conference, and they said, how's it going? Well, it's not going so very well. Our members don't like it. So that was an example, but that was 8 years ago when they were still new. Had that gentleman waited or polled his members. Now we know we're looking to do something with this branch, and we know it's going to be smaller, and bottom line, our staff will be reduced into like two, and we'll have people train them. But it's like, old dogs don't want to learn new tricks. Our members will learn new tricks.
Yeah.
They will.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, people are more used to working online and learning, not needing as many resources. So that certainly makes good sense. And I think your prediction is probably not too far off from the reality of where it will be. So I'm curious, just changing the subject a little bit. You said you're a one-person marketing team. So are you doing any of the like marketing design kind of work in-house, or do you farm a lot of that out to outside resources?
I do both. I don't play well in the sandbox, so so I like control of what I put out. I consider myself creative, so that if I come up with an idea or campaign, I generally know if it's a winner or not a winner.
Okay.
If somebody presents something to me, I can generally look at it and say no or wow, really like it. So I work with a local printer who basically he moved to North Carolina. He's no longer local, but he's continued to work for me, and he has a freelance artist. So I kind of come up with the campaign, the idea, the slogan, the whatever. I can kind of give them an idea of what I'm looking for, but I'm not super talented when it comes to layout and design.
Got it.
I ship it off to them. They do that, and they print it for me. Now, I'm able to do this at probably a third of the cost versus going to an agency, because my printer he doesn't have any overhead. The freelancer's just picking up a 1099 at the end of the year for the work she's doing. So it makes it very cost beneficial for us, and I have the control that I like to have. I can't say this would work for everyone. You have to find the right person,
Sure.
that third party person. Um, but yes, but I have worked with outside agencies. Some I've been very disappointed with. They give you the creative, and it's almost like, okay, this is what we came up with. What do you think? And you look at it, and you're like, oh my God, that's terrible. But how can I? I've learned to just say, I'm really sorry, I don't like it, but I will give them I'm looking for something like this.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
it's not like, I don't want them to ask me, well, what don't you like about it? I should, if I can tell them I don't like it, I should be able to tell them why.
Why?
That only helps them do their job better.
Sure. Yeah, that makes good sense.
So
Always like
yeah, so for like pre-screen mailings, I go to an outside source. I don't want to deal with TransUnion or any of those people. So
okay.
like I said, the work I don't want to do, that I shuffle out to others. Let them do the heavy lifting.
That's good. Keep your world much more pleasant that way, I would imagine.
Yep.
Any advice you'd give to marketers, regardless of the industry, about bringing a new agency on board? You said you've worked with some in the past. Any counsel you provide a marketer?
Well, number one, and I am currently working with two different agencies, and it's not easy for an agency to get in the door with me. It's not. And I don't know what hat you wear. Marketers are strange. I mean, I don't even like going to marketing conference because it's like my dog's better than your dog. We all have these creative brains, and none of us play well together. Don't tell them I said that. So my advice would be, work with someone who you feel good about. Make sure they understand your brand. Make sure they understand your goals, your objectives, and even understand the business plan, even short and long term, because hopefully your relationship won't be one and done with them. And if it's one and done, that means somebody failed. I will never want to bring in a vendor, and I hate vendor management. So if I'm bringing in a vendor, I want to know I can use them over and over. And I started working with a vendor. They tried to get in with me for a couple of years, and I poo-pooed it. And then finally, I'm like, okay, I'm getting older. I don't want to do as much. Let them do this for me. And they came in, and the first round of edits, I kind of was like, not what I'm looking for, but I was willing to work with them because we'd established a communications relationship, myself and the salesperson, that I didn't want to trash it all. I'm like, you know what, I can get them to understand how to work with me.
Hmm.
But for example, I opened up a mailing list from them today, and it had addresses for people out of state. And I didn't ask for that, and I was very specific. So I wrote them back. I said, I really don't want to babysit these projects. They should hope to not get another email like that from me. Otherwise, I'm going to have to say, okay, now you're treating me like everybody else.
Yeah.
Still the queen.
Yeah.
I'm still your number one priority, regardless of who you have. When you're working for me, you're working for me. And I want it done a certain way.
Yeah.
So
yeah. No,
yeah. So I would find find someone you can have that relationship with, where you can say, hey, Billy, I don't like this. I'm not babysitting you. And if you have a good relationship, you can have those thought-provoking conversations where there is respect behind it, not malice or angst or anything like that.
Sure. Yeah, that makes good sense. So my last question is, and I expect an interesting answer out of this one. If an agency were trying to knock down your door and attempting to win business from you, what advice would you give those agencies out there trying to do
Don't try to sell me.
that? Okay.
Do not try to sell me. It is the worst thing when someone comes at you and it's a salesperson and they don't really know the product, but they think they're a good salesperson, and they come to you, whether it be they promise you the moon, we're better than everybody else. A marketer worth their salt should be able to see through that. And
Mhm.
that is a pet peeve of mine. If you want to get my business, don't sell me. Bring something forward that makes me want to continue to have a conversation.
Yep, that makes good sense. I'm curious, you get a lot of agencies calling you and emailing you trying to do just that?
It goes in cycles. I get inundated. But I had this one radio person trying to, let's go back. I have a radio person trying to get through with me. She knows I play golf. She knows I like cats. please don't put videos of cats in your email to me. Really? I just shake my head. So now I have to give her a nickname. Her name's Barbara, so now I got to call her Babs. I'm sure she hates it, but I like it.
Nice.
So I know, but yeah. And then like the guy I work with, my printer, he tried for 3 years to get in with me, and he was
Oh, yeah,
great,
right.
and I never got in. And then one of my other printers, I realized that the pricing was off. Like it
Mm,
was good, and then he was starting to take advantage. This was back in the 92, 93 area. So once I challenged him on the pricing, and I realized, so this other guy, he had been periodically checking in, and I said, you know what, I said, I got 5 minutes, come on in. He came in, he didn't try to sell me. Simply
mm,
said, hey, I've been trying, I know you're busy, I just am appreciative you're giving me 5 minutes to talk to me.
right.
He has had my business ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And
It's just
again, I go
getting
back
things
to,
going.
yeah, don't sell me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Find out a way to talk to me where we can say, you know what, this can be a nice partnership.
Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Well, Liz, listen, it's been a pleasure talking with you, and you've given some great perspective and insight that I think will be really helpful, not just for people working in the credit union and banking industry, but people outside of the industry as well. And it's great again that you've been with them 35 years,
35
and
years.
so yeah, so thanks so much, and really appreciate it, and hope you have a great rest of the week.
Okay.
All right.